Now, they say if you want something done right, you do it yourself. And that's exactly what cattle farmer Stuart has done. Foot and mouth disease could cripple this country. So he penned an open letter to returning Bali tourists. And it just hits the mark in every single way. No scolding, no lecturing, no big words or complex lingo. Just an easy to understand why this should matter to you plea. Governments of all levels should take note. Stuart from Wilmot Cattle joins me right now. Stuart, thank you so much for your time. You were clearly worried that the message wasn't cutting through to everyday Aussies.
Thanks, Erin. Thanks, Ian, for the invitation to join you tonight. And absolutely, it's, we tend to talk in silos within agriculture, and so we really need to get this message beyond agriculture and into the urban community. And to all those tourists who are returning from Bali, which is, pre-COVID was in excess of 1 million tourists a year travelling to Bali from Australia. So it's a significant number of people.
I think people generally, and particularly Australians, they want to care about things even if they don't think it will really impact them, but a lot don't. There's so much on everyone's plate. What you've managed to do is show everyone really simply why they need to care and take caution with this. Tell us now why. Why does every Australian have to care deeply about this issue?
Yeah, it's a really important point, Erin. It's exactly what I was trying to hit with that letter, was that, everyday Australians don't necessarily connect with a farmer, they don't necessarily connect with their livestock, but what they do connect with is the food on the shelf in the supermarket, the meat and the milk and all those dairy products that we eat in Australia. The vast majority of them are produced in Australia. So an FMD outbreak in Australia would put 150 million livestock at risk. There's 24 million feral pigs running around this country, and pigs are one of the major carriers of foot and mouth disease. So it would only take one case in Australia. Immediately the country goes into, all livestock movements stop. All the international trade partners hear about that one case, and straight away we lose our FMD-free status, and that immediately shuts all the international trade borders. So as a net exporter of agricultural produce, it would have a massive impact.
What actually happens when an animal, a cow, gets this disease?
So they get sores in their mouth, sores in their feet. It is somewhat difficult to detect, I suppose. Those animals will die. It is incurable. And the trouble with vaccinations, as we all understand with COVID, there's multiple strains, there's multiple variants of FMD. So we don't have 150 million vaccines sitting on the shelf. You have to understand, or first work out which strain of FMD it is, and this is the issue we're having in Indonesia right now. They're trying to work out exactly what strain they've got, such that we can then start producing the vaccine to then administer it, and that of course all takes time. The latest count, there was 400,000 current cases of FMD in Indonesia. So you can imagine it's spread through animal-to-animal contact. In Indonesia, they're mostly small-scale farmers, and there's a lot of wild cattle in Indonesia, particularly in Bali. So they're wandering the streets of a lot of the tourist areas, and so infection is rife and it's spreading like wildfire.
What are you asking tourists to do when they are making their way back to Australia from Bali?
So there's a couple of really important things there. We have been advocating very strongly for increased biosecurity measures within airports, and I had a really concerning conversation with a friend of mine who flew back from Bali on Friday afternoon, and he actually had to ask Border Control to inspect his footwear. So some of the critical things, firstly, wash all your clothes in Indonesia before you leave the country. When you get back to Australia, obviously, before you leave, also scrub all your shoes, leave any shoes behind that you can. So it's carried in dirt, soil, faeces, and as I just described, because those animals are wandering around in all the major tourist areas and in the rural areas in Bali particularly, you can pick this up on your shoes in no time, and it's easily transported back to Australia. So cleaning shoes is absolutely critical, but not just the ones you're wearing, the ones that are in your bag, in the tread of the joggers, etc. And when you get to Australia, declare that and ask for them to be inspected to make sure that Border Control are comfortable that they're clean enough. The other thing is that, on our entry permit, there's two critical questions on there. One is, do you have anything to declare? And I would urge everyone coming back from Bali to tick yes to that, so that your luggage is inspected, your clothes, your shoes, everything I've just talked about. The second is absolutely don't bring any fresh food products or preserved meats back into Australia. That's one of the big pathways for transmission is on preserved meats. And the second box to tick there is have you been on a farm within the last 7 days or been in contact with animals? And again, I would urge everyone coming back from Indonesia, particularly Bali, to tick yes to that question, such that for all those same reasons that you may well not have been on a farm, but you more than likely have been in contact with pigs or cattle, like I say, wandering the streets in Bali.
I'm thinking now about a lot of the type of Australians that go to Bali. A lot of them are young. A lot of them aren't going to do this. That's just a reality. Teenagers, kids who really couldn't care less at this stage of their lives. Are we relying too much on people doing the right thing? What should the government be doing to enforce these kind of things? Can they do anything?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Erin. And that's the biggest concern, is that absolutely we're relying on people to do the right thing. And, talking to this friend of mine today, and he said he's a farmer, and he asked for his shoes to be inspected. He said everyone else picked their bags up, walked out of the airport. And that's a massive concern for all of us as farmers in agriculture. That risk is huge. So absolutely we need our government to tighten those control measures at all the entry points, not just Darwin and Cairns, every airport in Australia where there's flights arriving from Indonesia, particularly from Bali. Foot baths seem to be a no-brainer, but for some reason we're having a hard time getting them put into airports. But I think the cost of and the time cost of screening every passenger and their luggage that comes in from Indonesia is will pale into insignificance relative to the cost of trying to eradicate this disease when it enters Australia.
Okay, you make a lot of sense. Would you ever think of entering politics at some stage?
It's been suggested, but it might take a bit.
A bit more money, maybe. Okay, Stuart. Well, our country is lucky to have you advocating on this issue, so thank you very much.